The road to Sochi and beautiful Lake Placid, New York, and a gorgeous aerial view of the historic Mount Van Hoevenberg, home of the 1932 and the 1980 Olympic Games. Hi, everybody, and welcome to this, the second run for the ladies on this very challenging bobsled track, the third most recent version, completed in 2000. Glad to have you along for this one. I'm Nick Gismondi alongside Bree Schaaf. Let's take a look back at how things played out through round one. This is the Americans, who finished in that third position, Jamie Grubauer and Katie Aberlin.
And you notice it was a lot of fine details that are defining the women in this race. If you watch it compared to the men's race, their lines all looked pretty good.
Alana Meyers and Lauren Williams finished in second with a time of 56.65, a 5.51 start.
If you watch this, I talked to Alana up top, and she knows some exact spots that she's going to gain time when she fixes them.
And of course, the leader setting that track record on the start with a time of 5.50, the Canadians, Callie Humphreys and Heather Moyes.
You know, Kaylee is a powerhouse. She showed that last year, and here she is back on this track, out-pushing most of the competition by roughly 0.2 of a second. The top of the track is so sticky, and it's going to cater to someone as strong as Kaylee.
The track been beat up a little bit as we come towards the end of the day. Temperatures are plummeting, but a good one on hand here. You should see some fast time. That track getting pretty cut up. We'll see if that plays a role in those times as you get a look at the current rank after the first heat. We talked about Humphreys and Moyes at 56.63 for them. So it was Canada, the U.S., and the U.S. No surprise there. Sort of how it played out last week in Park City. There were two races. The first race, the Americans went 1-3. It was Meyers and Grubauer. Humphreys spoiled that, coming in second. Race two, it was an American sweep. Meyers, Grubauer, and Fenlater. We'll see if that will be the case again here. The Canadians would like that to not be. Let's talk about the weather. It is cold outside. It is currently 3 degrees. Feels like -12. There is a 30% chance of snow showers beginning at 3 p.m. and Lake Placid is currently under a winter storm warning. 6 to 10 inches are going to fall overnight. And Bree Schaaf,
oh boy,
baby, it's cold outside.
It is. It is brutal out there, and you can feel that storm coming. It is gloomy outside.
So reverse order here for the start list. It will go from 20 down to the 1 position. Any other surprises in this field that we can expect to see other than the strong performance out of the Americans and the Canadians?
You know, the second run is always so interesting because for a lot of the field, it's a vendetta run. You have the people that were a little bit nervous on the first one and know that they have things they want to fix. So you're going to see, you know, people out for blood. There's, you know, the Germans want to be up in that mix. And then, of course, the Americans want to dominate the podium again.
All right, this track has 20 turns for the bobsleighers. It is a 9.8% grade. They're going to hit max G-forces of about 5.1, and max speeds can potentially reach the 130 kilometers an hour. I love this course because it's got curves like Cliffside, Whiteface, Devil's Highway, and the Labyrinth, and Chicane. As we get set to kick this one off, it will be Kim Sunuk and Miwa Shin of Korea. They will start things off for the ladies. I want to ask you, Bree, real quickly about track conditions. We saw some jumping, some skipping of the sleds in the lower portions of that. How do you correct that? How you plan for that coming into this second run?
You know, it's tough as a track crew. It's the sheer volume of sleds on this ice. The more sleds you send down, the more the ice is going to get beat up. These girls have the clock running down a little bit here, but they're going to make it just in time. You actually have 60 seconds when that light turns green to get ready, get your push bar up, do all your pre-flight checks essentially, and get ready to go. We had, oh no, we've seen that today. You saw the back and wipe on the girls skidded out of the groove, and unfortunately, if you don't, as a pilot, hold those D-rings as tight as possible, the grooves can kick you in the wrong direction.
All right, so the Koreans off to a good one here. We saw their compatriots earlier on go down in this competition here. The men sled yesterday had a crash. The Swiss crashed in turn 2 today. It's shown to be a little bit of a problem as well for the ladies. Nobody's gone over. I don't want to jinx anybody, but we'll keep an eye on that. Oh my God! And a high one right there, and I did jinx it. Looks like a shoe came off, and the Koreans are down. Kim Sunuk Miwa Shin, and I can't tell if the brake woman has fallen out or not.
Usually for the women, they can tuck a little bit smaller and stay in the sled because that is a bit more comfortable ride. If you can tuck like a little koala bear and hold onto that sled. The brakeman, of course, is way more exposed than the driver. If the driver's lucky, they can get under the cowling and entirely protect themselves. But you can see there, the brakeman's back is exposed, which is why they wear, oh, you always hope that they catch you. But I will tell you right now, what's worse than crashing is then going backwards again and taking all those same turns with your head.
Oh, goodness. This is not good for right now for the Koreans. The track assistant almost had him caught. Now they're going to try and get him here. They're going to chase this sled down, and they will get him, and they'll pop out real quickly. The Koreans in a hurry to get out of there. That is Kim Soo-nook and Miwa Shin, who early on went down. We're going to get another look at it in a minute here. They are
hopefully just checking on each other. Usually the first thing you do. Yeah, she was tucked in backwards. It's amazing how this sled you'll experience just 360-degree hits as you tumble down the ice. And what we heard was the girls checking on each other. I know the first thing, if I ever crash as a pilot, is you are checking on your brakeman because you know it was all your fault. They're walking okay. They appear to be fine. The brakeman did manage to tuck in pretty small.
So the medic is there checking them out. Let's take a look at
So she had decent height on the beginning, but if you watch her runner tips, they're not doing anything there. And that is when, especially as a new driver, you are anchoring that steer. We call that handing the D-ring to your brakeman. You've got to make sure the sled gets off the turn. This is so hard to watch, but the girls, you know, they're an up-and-coming team. Korea obviously doesn't have a rich history in women's bobsled. They're really pouring money into that program in anticipation of the next Olympic Games. But this is the kind of stuff that happens as you're learning to drive a bobsled.
Well, they are tucked in there well. The medic checking them out at the point where the sled stopped. The unfortunate thing is that they were upside down for quite some time, and then the track attendants were unable to get to them and hold the sled still, so they slid back quite a way. So one sled and one sled down. Kim Soo-nook and Miwa Shin crash early in the ladies' second heat of the two-women bobsled.
1, 2, 3.
So here we got the track crew hoisting the sled out of the track. They're in what we call low point. That's actually the bottommost part of the track where it starts to go uphill again. And man, I can't express enough how much it hurts to slide backwards after you've already crashed your way all the way down the hill. The girls are walking fine, so that's a great sign.
Long, cold walk, I would imagine, though, also.
There's the walk of shame, as we call it. Yep, it was that labyrinth is such a tricky part of the track, and that is claimed many of bobsledders as they're learning to drive here, as well as the turn that they're standing in right now, turn 18.
So that labyrinth, where he's talking about 3 quick curves in succession, is where things kind of went wrong for the Koreans. And I want to correct, that wasn't a shoe that we saw flying out of the sled. It was one of the guards for the shoes, so nobody lost a shoe. We're
very protective of our bobsled spikes in this sport. They are probably one of the most expensive pieces of equipment. I certainly have never spent more on shoes than I have on bob spikes.
All right, let's take one more look at this crash.
So you can see her pretty high up there in 10. And, you know, all things considered, not too bad. She hits the take-on to 11, which is very scary, and so she comes out flat. And we didn't see, she appeared to be okay, but her runners were not pointed onto the turn. So now she catches all this late height in addition to not steering as much as she needed to.
Oh, just so high on that turn.
Yeah, it's the weirdest floating feeling.
Say 1 minute warning, 1 minute warning to Victoria, 1 minute.
All right, so Kim Soo-nook and Miwa Shin up and okay. The sled out of the track, and the first ones down don't make it all the way down. A crash early on in this one, and Bree, we were talking about it during the break, but it happened in the labyrinth, which is right around that 11, 12, and 13. 3 quick curves in succession, and it's just difficult when you have such a high line coming into 12.
It is an especially tough combo here in Lake Placid because of the way that turn is shaped in turn 12. It's almost a vortex of space. If you miss the pressure in that turn by not getting on early enough, you have nothing to grab and the sled flies up like we saw.
All right, back at the start, we are ready for sled number 2. That is Victoria Olay and Sarah Adams from Great Britain. Olay, a 29-year-old London native. She's also a personal trainer and a massage therapist. I imagine that comes in handy on the road.
Yeah, especially if you don't have someone with you taking care of you. I'm sure Brakeman's happy.
Hey, absolutely.
Happy Brakeman, happy driver.
Exactly. Started in 2010. Victoria also used to be a skeleton athlete. Quick pat on the back, and
I didn't know I had a fellow one of those. I came from skeleton.
I know it.
It's a great transition because you are so happy to be sitting in a recliner instead of getting your face beat on the ice. I tell you, I did not look back from that.
I don't know if I would call the bobsled a recliner. I think you're being
it's so
generous.
comfortable. Are you kidding? I guess it's all relative, but compared to skeleton, oh, it's a luxury ride.
Oh, goodness. All right, the Great Britain athletes off and running. They're hoping for a better fate than what happened to Kim Sanook and Shinmiwa. We'll see what happens here. Their start time, a 5.85. They're off and running, trying to best their first run time of a 58.31.
Olay is such a talented athlete. You notice her, really high on the end of 12 there, almost saw the same thing. But she's going to be great. They have crazy fast starts, and especially for 2 smaller girls pushing a really heavy sled. So this is definitely someone to watch for in the future.
2 was proving to be a tricky turn throughout the day, and
as
goodness,
well as 19.
What there?
That was a skeleton line in 19. So what happened there is there's double pressure in that turn, which you can catch no problem.
All right, so the athletes from Great Britain, Olay and Adams, make it down, and they're your leader at 156.67. And another look right here.
So if you look, she barely got, she knows that she needed to get some height on the beginning there, tried to force it, and then gets all of that airtime on the end. You see her head bouncing around. That's the head hitting the cowling, and that can take its toll. And here you see the sled bouncing around again, like we were talking about. The track does deteriorate if there's not enough time for the track crew to get in there and fix up the ice between races.
Okay, back at the top right now. This is Misha McNeel and Nikki McSweeney from Great Britain, following Olay and Adams.
It's a nice little shot of the hole in Misha's suit there. That is from the brakeman kicking you as they load. Not uncommon. It's very tricky to load that sled when you're at top speed.
Both of these athletes, track and field athletes, so coming over from that, something that you see quite a bit in bobsled. They're off and running here. Keep an eye on turns 2, turns 12, and as it would seem, turn 19 now also. Misha,
another athlete with a bright future in the sport as she figures out how to get down on one of the world's toughest tracks. I know she was here last year for the North American Cup trying to get extra time. That was a rough transition onto 9. That one hurts the noggin.
Ahead right now by 0.12 of a second. They had a good start of 5.87, second fastest we've seen yet, trying to best that run one time of 58.29.
See her rising a little bit on the end and making that a survival spot for new athletes trying to get out of turn 18.
Okay, back in Lake Placid. Happy to have you here for this one. That is McNeel and McSweeney from Great Britain, and they are your new leaders, just overtaking Olay and Adams from Great Britain. A time of 1:56.55. Bree, let's take a look.
So watch that left runner. It's going to slam off there, and now the sled is pointing way too far into 9 as the sled slaps on. Do you see her head there hitting the cowling? That is not comfortable. Oftentimes, especially when you're a new track, you might pad the side of your cowling just to decrease that head trauma. And coming down again, and there you have it again, the head slam. It's crazy how you don't necessarily notice that on the way down, and then later that night you're repeating yourself, wondering, oh, I feel a little funny.
A little lightheaded. Headache, bruising everywhere. Back at the top of the track, the Russians now set to go. They will be our 4th sled down. This is Anastasia Tambatsova and Nadezhda Poliva. Tambatsova, 31 years old, a former luger from 2001 to 2006.
A great driver, obviously coming from luge, and so her Bain has always been trying to find, you know, that beast of a brakeman that can give her the push.
Yeah, actually 2 Olympics as a luge athlete.
That's incredible.
Best was 21st in 2006, and then right away in 2007 made the switch over to bobsledding. Her best World Cup was 13th in Park City back in 2009, and at the 2010 games finished in 9th.
And there we see that runner slap, but she managed to get onto turn 9 parallel. A little bit high there in 10, but it's going to allow her to come off the turn a little easier.
Ahead of the mark right now is Tambatsova and Poliva. They are 3,500ths up, traveling at about 74 miles an hour, just a little short of that. Second fastest push start for them, a 5.87, trying to better that first run time of 57.89.
Lacing that chicane is certainly going to help.
Tambatsova into the finish, and the Russians will move into first. They overtake it, won a 1:55.90. McNeel and McSweeney from Great Britain are second. Olay and Adams, their compatriots, are third. A look there at the Russians as they hop out of their sled. A good run for them and into first.
Coming out of 14 here, watch this near textbook chicane. You can see the focus on Anastasia's eyes. She's someone known for always looking very focused and serious, but you can get her with some choice Russian words. You can get her to laugh.
Of course, the Sochi Olympic Games coming up just a little over 50 days away. Lots of pressure on all the Russian athletes to do well. Actually, the Russian Olympic Committee throwing out some cash for gold medals. Quite a bit of cash, actually.
Understatement.
6 figures worth of cash for
More
gold medals.
than Beijing. I mean, they are spending so much on this Olympics.
How does that tell you about the pressure on these athletes heading into the 2014 Games? The Australians now at the top of the track. This is Astrid Radjinovic and Jana Pittman from Australia. They are off. Astrid, 31-year-old, been competing since 2003.
And we've spoken about the smaller nations before. Astrid is another one of those great drivers, been in the sport a long time, but it's just so hard to drum up the funding for sled, equipment, all the top things that you need that the larger nations might take for granted.
Radjinovic, another track athlete who took up bobsled when Hannah Campbell-Pegg, who was the luge coach, basically suggested it. 2-time Olympian, her best finish was 14th in turn.
Well, and guess who she's got in her back seat? A 2-time world champion 400-meter hurdler. Jana is an incredible athlete.
Radjinovic ahead in this one right now. They're leading at the splits. They are 3,400ths ahead of the mark into the finish here. We'll see if they can maintain it. That final turn, and yes, they will overtake the Russians.
That's a solid lead, 3100ths of a second. You can see, you know, down here at the bottom of the start list, there's a lot of time separating these girls.
Welcome back to Lake Placid, and a new leader as we come back. You're getting a look at it here. The Australians drop themselves into the lead and take it over from Tambatsova and Poliva from Russia. This is Astrid Radjinovic and Jana Pittman. They move ahead and are your new leaders with a 1:55.59.
This is not the first speed suit mishap that we've ever seen in women's bobsled, obviously, but trying to keep our decency down here on the dock.
Excuse us for the wardrobe malfunction, folks. It is a PG show. We apologize, but it is sports and anything can happen. Back up to the top. No wardrobe malfunctions at the moment for the Canadians. Jennifer Cacchetti and Chelsea Valois.
Jenny is someone who was another brakeman transitioning into the driver's seat. You know, she was widely considered a shoo-in for the 2010 games and was having a really hard time coming back from injury. Missed those games, and now it's so great to see her on her way to her first Olympics.
Yep, she's had some good partners, including Helen Upperton. She's the world champ in 2012. Got that here in Lake Placid. As you said, competed since '06, and the 26-year-old hoping to do good things. High in that one. Ooh, comes out of it all right. She's ahead right now by 2800ths.
You get pretty discombobulated in that portion of the track, and I'll tell you, especially as a new driver, you know, you start getting more and more anxious, and you start getting rougher and rougher with your steers. But that's the point where now she can take a deep breath and get it back under her.
Going about 74 miles an hour, 2800ths ahead at that 5th split. Coming into the final portion of the track here, last turn. See if they jump into the lead, and they will. So it is Cacchetti and Bellois who are now your new leaders. They move into that first spot with a 1:55.34. Something you don't also see all the time, wearing goggles.
Yeah, that is definitely a Canadian thing, I think, stemming from, you know, the rich history in bobsled that Pierre Luder's had. And you'll notice that, you know, young pilots often imitate those above him. And Kaylee Humphreys, another very notable goggle wear. I personally had a really rough time with it. Maybe my helmet was too big, but pushed the goggles over my eyes, and I never did that again. It was in Lake Placid, a blind run.
Seeing is probably a good idea in this sport.
Yes, if you're going to have the luxury of a recliner, then you also want the luxury of vision.
To clear the track. The track is now clear.
Back to the top we go. It is sled number 7. Christina Hengster and Viola Kleiser.
They look like twins.
The Austrians, they do look like twins. Hengster, 27 years old. Been competing since 2004. Their best finish, Hengster's best finish, excuse me, was 12th in '08. And the snow is looking like it's getting ready to start to fall here in Lake Placid. Looming a little bit, it's coming over Whiteface. What adjustments need to be made if that does become the case?
You know, that's a tough one because you're starting, mostly you need to not let it make you more anxious and worry about the things you can't control. You have to recognize it's going to snow, I can't control it. What do I need to do? Maybe soften up your steers, know that if it gets in the track, it's going to make the track a little bit more unstable, and be really feather light with those steers.
So the time to beat is a 1:55.34. Cacchetti from Canada is leading right now.
Hengster is a fierce competitor. She is an absolute sweetheart, but you can tell when she is in her bobsled zone, you do not mess with her. She is out for blood.
Comes in a little low. Nice transition through that turn right there. Hengster behind in the count at the moment. 3100ths back.
That was
that one.
Great labyrinth. I mean, did you see how low she was? That's the difference between getting on early, catching that pressure, and pulling the sled down. Not, oh, really tough chicane there. It's going to cost her some time.
Slid out a little bit, and it did. She drops a touch, 3600ths there. Came out of chicane a little bit shady. And across the line will finish, well, moves into that 3rd spot, so bumps the Russians down a little bit, but her time definitely came off at the end. 4200ths back right there. She definitely fell off the mark slowly throughout that one. Despite a decent start, the 3rd fastest push to begin, a 5.78.
Yeah, she's a great pusher, and I know that she's just not been on this track too often. Here we see her, great low profile. You can see that she barely can see above that cowling. That's the most aerodynamic form you can get, but then that power skid, the power slide where the sled almost touches front bunk to one side, back bunk to the other, that's gonna cost you so much time.
So back up at the top of the track now, it will be the 3rd team from Great Britain, Paula Walker and Jillian Cook.
Paula's another athlete with a bit of experience on this track. We actually did our first driver school together here.
Paula Walker, 11th at the 2010 Olympic Games. That's a clean.
574 start. We've seen, you know, the starts have been pretty far off the start record here because it is so cold and sticky up top there. It's definitely going to cater to stronger pushing drivers and brakemen, the people that can squat the most.
Ahead right now by 1300ths. The leader is the Canadian, Chetty. A 1:55.34. Ahead of it now again, 1400ths and gaining.
Decent exit. She took a little tap going into 11, so she knows she's got to yarn that sled up onto 12 to get off the turn, but still maintaining that lead, 1800ths ahead. You see another great aerodynamic profile sitting really low.
Oh, looking good and clean here through these turns now. 2200s ahead, gaining speed. Maintains this. She should take the lead, moves into first. No question there. So Walker and Cook from Great Britain overtake the Canadians, and they are your new leaders here. Just 8 sleds in Lake Placid as the temperature drops and the snow begins to fall here on Mount Van Hoevenberg.
Paula's one of those drivers that you're so thankful to have on tour, at least I was, because you know you can always count on her for a joke. Okay, now you see their heels kicking up here. It's all, you know, different push techniques for different countries, but it's all about overspeed when you come over that crest and you need to move those wheels, move those feet as fast as possible.
Hugs at the finish there, and they are your new leaders as we go back up top for the Swiss. Fabian Meyer and Michelle Heweiler taking off 12th. Meyer was 10th at the 2010 Olympic Games in Vancouver. Her best World Cup finish, 6th. That was all the way back in 2006 in Altenburg. Would love to improve on that. Their start time in run 1 was a 5.76. A 57.32 run time from that first run.
5.78. You can see these are pretty atypical start times for this track, and it's fascinating to see, you know, the down times relative to those starts, because this track is fast. Record-setting time for Kaylee Humphreys today, you know, and that's going to freak out the newer drivers. It makes, when the ice is that fast, you know that you're not going to get much grip on your way down.
5.50, you mentioned that time of Kaylee Humphreys. That was that track record start time. What we are seeing here today, though, are a lot of personal bests coming in high there on 12 again.
Yeah, the downtimes were flying. Jamie Grubel told me that she PR'd by about 6/10 on her first run today. The ice is so fast. And what that does is you really, as a pilot, you don't get a lot of training. Only 6 runs in the week to get ready for this race. So it's all about visualization. You see the pilots in the start house looking like they're playing this weird video game, and those are mine runs, and everyone's got their own style, and I could probably imitate each different pilot on tour with their style of pretend bobsled driving.
Well, the one thing you can't practice for is those record times, and Meyer and Heweiler do a nice job here. They move themselves quite effectively into that first place position, overtaking Walker and Cook. They lead now with a 154.83. Come out a little low on that one. There's that bump.
Yep, coming out of turn 3, it's a hard bank left, and it is really, you have to, it's a quick, hard steer off that turn, and then you take that tap as it sets you well up onto 4.
Hugs, congratulations, and the all-important head warmer handed off at the finish line here in Lake Placid. Sled number 10, halfway through our second run, and this is the Dutch team of Esme Kamphuis and Judith Viss.
Esme is another one of those pilots that just kind of has a sick obsession for the truly difficult tracks. She loves Altenburg, she loves Whistler, she loves Lake Placid, and that really helps you on a track like this where most people are scared. You're not wasting any energy because you're excited. You love just having, you know, the fear put in you and feeling alive, really.
Well, in the first heat, it was looking real good up top for Kamphuis, and then really trailed off quite substantially in the bottom portion of the track. So she can improve on that today. She is ahead right now, so same run pretty much as she had back on that first heat, up 3200s.
Another fantastic line in the 11-12 textbook. She's got a lot of experience here, but that actually, okay, she took a hard hit, but the sled straightened out, so it's not going to be as bad as just ping-ponging through there.
Coming around, looking to jump out in front. Kamphuis and Viss into the finish. Will they do it? Yes, they will become your new leaders. So the Dutch rifle ahead here as we are halfway through the second heat. Currently sitting in first place, the Dutch doing a nice job here in this one. So they corrected the mistakes from heat number 1 and do a real good job getting through this one here down in the lower portion.
Yep, only flaw of that run, as you can see, she's coming up high of 14, takes that tap on the right, and the tap to set her up into 17, not too bad. I'll take that over skidding through chicane any day.
A wave to the camera, and Camphouse will move into the lead as you get a look at your current rankings right here. Meyer and Hugh sitting in that second spot.
It's a 2-minute warning, 2-minute warning to Anja Schneider-Heinz, Team Germany, 2-minute warning. So once again, 4 o'clock for the award ceremony. The men will receive their awards for this morning's race, the women for this afternoon, and in case you missed it this morning, Team USA with the 1, 2, and 3 place finishes. So if you're a Team USA bobsled fan, stick around, grab some autographs. Our athletes are more than happy to sign anything you have. They're a great bunch of athletes. They're happy to be here on race day.
See Esme not terribly excited. She's a fierce competitor, like I've talked about. Hankster, all these girls. No one, no one comes out here on race day for fun.
Right.
You come to win, and for most, it's going to line up how it lines up. But 10th place is, she's not going to be satisfied with that. She wants more. She knows she's got the ability to be on top of that podium.
Now, these sleds started in reverse order from the finishing times in the first.
Everyone's standing on the
heat, so
bridge
the
there,
faster
right over
sleds,
turn
in theory,
14,
will be
where we're
coming
getting
down
that
towards
awesome
the end of the
camera
race.
shot.
Doesn't always happen that way, but usually we
Benham's
see a lot of
Bend,
leader change.
named after Stanley
these
Benham,
last
who
10
won the
sleds.
gold medal in the
And the
four-man
first heat was
event
only a
at
couple
the
hundred seconds.
1949 FIBT World Championships in Placid. 1949.
Not much more than that separating the top five.
Wow,
So very
it's
close
crazy how
times.
different the equipment
Next
is,
sled,
compared
again, Anja
to
Schneider-Heinz
then.
and
And
Lizette
yet the
Kern.
sport, relatively the same. It's still a bunch of professional sleigh riders.
Top 3 sleds are separated by 3 tenths
Also
of a second.
of worth of noting about Stanley, went on to win 2 silvers at the Olympic Games as well.
This is an unusual position for Schneider-Heinz to be in. She is typically done really well internationally once she jumped into the driver's seat. She was Santa Curiosis brakeman for a long time, a powerhouse pushing driver.
Attention, clear the track. The track is now clear from the finish to start number 1.
The Marcus, keep your back focus.
Back in Lake Placid, the Germans now at the top and all ready to go. Anja Schneider-Heinz and Lisette Thone. Schneider-Heinz, 36 years old, been competing since 2001. Olympic gold in 2006 in turn. Also a world championship that year. Another silver in the Worlds in 04. She is a veteran of this sport.
She was a phenomenal brakeman, so you can imagine how any coach would feel when someone that good wants to get into the driver's seat, as in the case of Alana Meyers. Once they pick it up, then they're unstoppable.
Already ahead. 700's out in front. A 5.65 second run start for them. A little bit slower than what they saw in the first one, but the fastest one we've seen here today. Their time in that first run was a 57.25. Expect them to jump up a little bit here. Losing some speed, though, and now behind. 600's back of the count. Chasing down Camphouse and Viess.
Anja does not like this track, and that could have been what affected her start time. If you're scared of a track, it's a lot harder to gun it all out at the start.
2000's back, and they'll finish 3300's back.
Fierce high fives.
Oh yes, oh yes. Camphouse and Viess. Viess, we saw her at the World Push Challenge back in Calgary a few weeks ago. So a second place right now for the Germans as they don't overtake the lead, but Schneider-Heinz and Thone now sitting in second ahead of Meyer and Hugh from Switzerland. Take another look here. Here's the start.
You can see, watch those strides. It's all about ground contact. You want to be keeping your feet as long as possible on the ground. The sled's not moving if you're not applying force to the ice, but that said, you need turnover. You're pushing a roughly 400-pound sled trying to get it go from a standstill, but then you're going downhill. That takes a lot of top-end speed.
Back up at the top now, this is sled number 12, Caroline Spani and Ariane Walzer. Spani was 12th at the 2010 Olympic Games in Vancouver.
As a brakeman, she's another brakeman transition to driver, and she's picking it up pretty quickly.
Trying to improve on a 5.72 start from run one. They do by just 100th, 5.71, puts them in 4th fastest start. 57.19 was their time in round 1.
Solid flop off of 2 there. We've seen a lot of trouble today in that spot. It's so unassuming, but if you go in late, it will bite like a pit bull. No offense to pit bulls. Actually, very charming dogs. Trained well. Nice high line in shady 2 there, coming out a little tap on the left. It's going to set up perfect for 11 with some good early height, but still hangs off the end of 12.
Looking good and now ahead. Can they hang on to it? Good turn here, coming down. Oh, look at that, nice and smooth.
I find myself so jealous when a young pilot like that can lace the chicanes.
All right, and into the finish. Will they take it over? No, they're going to be just short. Camp House and Viss, still your leaders. And they will come to a stop in the finish and move into 2nd place, just overtaking the Germans. So Spani and Walser from Switzerland now in that 2nd position. Take another look here.
Here we see her entry on to 12. She's got okay height, but look, her runners are turned, but the sled is just climbing. It's one thing to have a great entry, but if you don't time that steer, if you miss the pressure, doesn't matter what you do, the sled's just going to wipe onto the turn.
Coach Eric Allard on the right, reacting to it. That's about all you can do sometimes.
That feeling.
All right, back up to the start now. The Russians getting ready. Olga Stolniva.
Okay.
Back up at the start here in Lake Placid. Glad to have you along for this one on a very cold day. Nick Gizmondi alongside Bree Schaaf bringing you this one from the finish line of Mount Van Hovenberg. And now the Russians are off. The 13th sled. Olga Stolniva driving this one, a track star also, 2004 Olympian. She won the silver in the 4x100 relay, switched to bobsledding in 2006, where her best World Cup finish was 5th.
I can't tell you what an honor it is to compete alongside athletes like Olga and Lauren Williams and Lolo, people that have dominated, you know, one of the greatest feats of humanity, you know, running, you know, just foot speed, pure foot speed. And Olga has taken quite well to the driver's seat, and she is such a sweetheart.
Ludmila Udobkina is her brake woman here on this one. They are trailing a little bit. They led the first 3 splits. Now they're behind by 300ths, trying to catch that time of Camp House and Viss from the Netherlands. They set down that time of a 1:54.46. Now they're back by quite a substantial amount.
You know, it's always tough to tell when you're trying to, you go and you watch these runs and you're trying to diagnose, you know, where did I lose that time, especially when it makes a big jump all of a sudden. And chances are you have to go back a few turns and figure out where it started.
You gotta love the finish line reactions of Judith Viss. Every time a sled comes down, it's like she won another gold medal. It's fantastic.
That winner's box definitely gets all the best camera shots.
Here's a look at the replay. This is the start for Stolniva and Udobkina.
We're in slow motion, and look at that turnover. That's incredible. I think that's my turnover in regular speed. She's phenomenal.
That is a lot of foot speed right there. We mentioned that 2004 Olympic silver medal in track and field, the 4x100 relay. Olga's showing us that, well, that's a nice transition for her. She's finding herself right at home in bobsledding, trying to improve on her 18th finish at the 2010 Olympic Winter Games. And a pat on the back, and we're ready to go for sled number 14. This is the Belgians.
The Belgian team, an absolute crowd favorite. Elfie has been driving a long time. She's always been a phenomenal driver. Struggles at the push, but these girls have been having an incredible season. To see the amount of time that she's able to make up for every race down each track, even on a short track like Park City, I mean, a lot of it, I think, can be contributed to getting some great equipment. Giannis Scrastons, our former driving coach, actually took over their program, and now they're in one of his custom-built sleds, and they have been flying.
Williamson has been competing since 2007. Her best finish was 20th in Park City in 09. Also another track athlete, a javelin thrower coming over here in this one. Looking good. You're trying to get ahead. She's behind right now, though. That is...
She's hacking away, hacking away.
About 800s back. Yeah, not bad. Going about 75.5 miles an hour. Can she make up time at the bottom of this track? 400s back. She's still closing the gap.
She's going to do it.
Bree says she's got it. I think it's going to be close. And she does. Williamson and Marianne, your new leaders.
Oh, Esme is pissed. But, man, it is so much fun to see. You know, talk about the underdog. When someone is overcoming that huge deficit at the start, absolutely incredible.
What an absolute run that was. Yeah, you're number one, and you know it.
What you can't see is typically you'll have a coach standing there holding up a finger to let you know what place you're in. And so she was pretty confused trying to figure out, where am I? How'd I do?
So Camp House and Judith Viess will now move into the second position as Williamson and Marianne are your new leaders. Here's that run. That's a personal best time as well for Williamson. Nice timing.
Someone said, do something for the camera. Okay.
Sandra Kiriasis and Franziska Fritz from Germany are next up. They are in the 15th spot. The Belgians are your new leader. Elfie Williamson and Hannah Marianne laid down a personal best time to take over the lead from Camp House and Viess. Happy to have you along on a very cold one here in Lake Placid. Upstate New York is currently 3 degrees, but it feels like negative 12 out there, and the snow flurries beginning to fall. The Adirondacks expecting around 6 to 10 inches and are currently under a winter storm warning. We should be able to get through all of the ladies here in heat number 2 before it really starts to come down, but it certainly, Brezhov, could make things interesting tomorrow.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you're watching that weather move in as a skeleton athlete, as meant, you know, for four-man tomorrow, thinking, all right, what's this going to do?
Well, we are currently under a short track hold, and when we come back, we'll have more sledding coming up from Lake Placid. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back with more of the women's second run after this.
Start number 1. Start 1 for Sandra Kiriasis.
All right, so a short track hold.
You saw the Germans putting their clothes back on. If you don't know that there's a TV break coming up in the start order, it's really hard. You get out there, you're ready to go, and all of a sudden they say, no, you've got 2 minutes. So you don't want to get cold. You put your pants back on. That can throw someone off, but here's Sandra Kiriasis, not going to phase her.
All right, so the Germans underway here. Sandra Kiriasis and Franziska Fritz back underway. 38-year-old driving this one. She's been competing since 2000. Back in Lake Placid, Sandra Kiriasis is on course. Her brakewoman is Franziska Fritz. This is the German team chasing down the Belgians, coming in high off that turn. Looking all right here, though. Again, it is Elfie Williamson and Hannah Marianne. They are your leaders right now. This is sled number 15. There are 5 to go after this. Brezhov looking good right now and ahead of the split. This is 1900ths ahead for Kiriasis and Fritz.
Sandra she could write a textbook on bobsled driving in every track. She's an absolute institution in the sport of women's bobsled. Struggling a bit this year, really, obviously ahead takes the Belgians by a 1/10 of a second, but an odd position for her to be in next to Belgium.
No struggle there. They jump out up in front, and Kiriasis is now your new leader. Williamson and Marianne settle down into the second spot, and Camp House and Viess, who maintained that lead for more than a few sleds, have now fallen down into the third spot, just barely hanging on to the podium, but a 154.34 for Kiriasis and Fritz of Germany.
towards Plaza.
I see her come out. You will not get a better example of how to drive a bobsled usually than Santa Curiosity. You see, she takes a little tap, a little correction with her runners. She has so much experience and is typically quite flawless down the track.
Back up at the start, the Americans now will give it a go as you see the current leaderboard after 15 sleds here in the second heat. This is Jasmine Fenlitter and Emily Acevedo. 57-35 would put them into the lead.
Great synchronized load there. Emily was, of course, my brakeman in the 2010 Olympics, and so it's hard not to just be sitting here cheering the whole way down. And so I'll try to keep this very businesslike.
You're doing a great job, Reed. You're doing a great job. Fenlitter finished third last week, was part of that USA sweep on a good one right here. They're ahead after two, 2300s out in front.
Slapping a runner down going into 9, that rough transition we talked about. Jasmine freeing it up a bit. Talked to her between heats. That was a much better line in Shady.
Fenlitter ran track at Rider University, and then her coach told her, give bobsleds a try now that you're done graduating. First World Cup was in Lake Placid. She'd love to get another podium here.
Emily would love for me to give her a shout out of her riding position in the back there. Brakemen are often judged on their riding position. If you're too tight, it's going to slow the sled down, and she's always been known for being great. 2700s ahead of Sandra Kiriasis to lock down that 5th place finish.
And a great job right there. The fastest time in the heat. A well-played run for the Americans. Fenlitter and Acevedo, and a little kick to the camera right there. Don't get too close, boys. Give them some space. They are in the lead by 2700s, traveling at just a little over 75 miles an hour. So now we've got some exciting sleds coming up. But let's take a look at the start here. And your brake woman.
Oh, Todd. Move.
We got a good look at Todd's break end.
Emily, of course, a really strong athlete. You know that when you see that sticky start, Emily, it's phenomenal squat numbers, so she's going to be able to get that sled out of the hole.
All right, a big wave there from the Americans as they move into first place. Kiriasis and Fritz are down into second. Williamson and Marianne, the Belgians, sitting in third, and Kamphaus and Viess now off the podium in fourth as we go back to the start for the German pairing, and 4 sleds to go. This is Kathleen Martini and Christian Senkel.
She struggled getting in on the first heat too. I'm not sure what's going on there. And you see, you know, any time you're hanging up out of the sled, that's air, you're just a big sail. So you want to load that sled as soon as possible. And I'm not sure why she's struggling here. 13
years of experience for Martini. Been competing since 2000. Gold in the 2011 World Champs. She's got 2 silvers and a bronze to go with them. Ooh, coming in a little high there.
Solid slap of the runner out of turn 8, heading into 9. Beautiful exit of Shady, going to sit up nice in a 10. Great early height, little bit of fall off a 12.
Falling back a touch here, 800s back now for 2 splits. Come through that chicane, see if they can pick it up a little.
We're going to have to see where the momentum is going at this next split. Really tough to tell. Back farther, they are going to fall behind the Americans. Jasmine Fenlitter and Emily Acevedo are going to climb another spot.
Incredible. So it is Fenlitter and Acevedo who are out in front with that 154.07. Martini and Senkel do move into that second spot, just 1700s back of the Americans.
It's never fun to fall a spot, but she is at least a top 6 finish guaranteed.
Here's another look at the start and the replay for the Germans.
We'll have to see what is hanging her up on this load. Okay, so she's what I refer to as likes to shoot the duck when you're trying to go straight in from the ice to the sled, and you risk catching your feet on the D-rings. Most athletes will hop onto the seat and then shoot their feet, and if you look inside a sled, the space that you're trying to get each foot in is about 4 or 5 inches. It's not easy.
Yeah, just a little margin of error there.
Yeah, not much room.
The United States set to go. They will go here in this 18th run, and then they will have another in the 19th, and then we will see the Canadians. The medals on the line right now. This is Jamie Grubel and Katie Eberlin. Ready in the start.
These two have something to prove at the start this heat. Jamie is a fantastic pushing driver, and you know she does not like to get out-pushed.
Let's see where their start is at. It was a 5.70 in round one, a 5.68 here, so a little quicker. Their time was a 56.93 in that first run. They're ahead after that push. Grubel was a college track athlete at Cornell. She joined this bobsled team in 07 and 08. One of the most promising female pilots for the U.S. Behind right now.
She's an incredible athlete and has had a lot of success pushing on the driver bar. She was a brakeman headed into the 2010 games and just missed making the team.
Finished third and second in Park City last weekend, respectively.
She's got some time, 0.05 of a second to work with. Okay, that little nick worried me, but she straightened out. That's not too bad. As long as you're not skidding through there, I'll take a hit over a skid any day.
She's in the green, and now she's up. 700s. Went from 100 to 500, now to 700s in the lead. To the finish, and into first. So the United States right now guaranteed at least 2 medals. It is Grubel and Eberling. Fenlater and Acevedo. Martini and Senkel from Germany are in the third spot. Now the question becomes, can Elena Meyers and Lauren Williams lay down a good enough run to hold out Humphries and Moyes for a potential second sweep in a row?
This is a great race. Okay, you're gonna watch Katie here, her brakeman, load the sled. Her arm gets a little bit stuck and she tucks him back behind her, trying to work him around. Not really sure what happened there. She's pretty long-limbed. Sometimes you just gotta wrangle those spaghetti arms and get them right back in the sled there.
All right, things getting interesting now here in Lake Placid. Oh boy, up back now to the start. Elena Meyers and Lauren Williams.
Lauren is set and ready to get after this run. I saw her between heats. She said, "Bree, I went early. I don't know why." I said, "Lauren, that's guaranteed time in the bank." We're gonna watch these two push faster than their first heat.
All right, their first push was a 5.51, the second fastest in that first heat, right behind the Canadians.
Oh no!
What do they do here?
Oh,
A 5.52, that is the fastest push we've seen, so they're out in front a little bit here already, Bree.
oh no, but what we saw, Lauren had some trouble getting in the sled, and then the sled skid and hit before turn one. We've talked about this velocity is shot. They've got a huge lead with that start, and hopefully Alana can, she doesn't have the velocity that she normally does, but she's got enough time from her start being ahead to hopefully have room to keep her spot.
Alana, a veteran, 2010 Olympic Winter Games. She came away with a bronze medal. Ooh, and a big bump right there. Still out in front by 3,100s. Going 75 miles an hour. Just a little nick there in the chicane. They are still up right now. Can they hold the velocity through the bottom of the track and take the lead? That'll make it 1, 2, 3 for the Americans, with only one team left to go. Into the finish and into first. So it is Meyers and Williams, followed by Grubel and Eberling and Fenlater and Acevedo. Right now, the U.S. has the sweep lined up. They've done everything that they can do to make it happen again. We saw it happen with the men earlier in the two-man, and now the U.S. going to try and do it again. They did it in the second race in Park City last weekend. It was Meyers, Grubel, Fenlater. Here's a look at that start you talked about.
All right, we see Lauren getting in here, struggling a little bit. They're out of the grooves, and that little bit of movement, it could be that, or if you're not holding the D-rings tight, oh my gosh, that was, so the back end of the sled, that means she went late into the turn, the back end kicks up, and it's wiping across the ice, slowing you down. Height on the end of 12 here. Alana Meyers, she locked down at least a silver medal, but on her home track, she's not gonna be happy.
Well, let's see what happens now, because the Canadians are next, and they spoiled the sweep in the first races back in Park City last weekend, and the Americans responded with a sweep, and then Humphries responded here with a push start track record. That was a time of 5.50. Let's see how they do, if they improve upon that, match it, or go a little bit slower. That'll kind of make a big impact on what happens here. Let's see where they are at. They do better. Another track record on the start of 5.49.
That's a great push, especially on that sticky ice.
Humphries out in front here.
Here we go. This is where you're going to see Kaylee Humphries shine. She is one of the more focused athletes you'll ever meet. She's got one objective, and that is to win, and winning is what she does.
I want to correct myself there, not a track record, just the best time of the day so far. She's ahead right now by 21 hundredths.
Yes, it was actually the finish, the downtime record that she had on the first heat.
3 golds yesterday for the Americans. A few more this morning. Can they do it again here?
Losing time.
We'll see what happens at the finish.
Wow.
But it won't be so. Humphreys will make it across and take the gold. So Canada comes through with another one. It spoils the sweep. They come across to take the gold. So it will be Meyers and Williams in the second spot with silver. Grubal and Eberling finished with bronze. And Fenlitter and Acevedo, the other American team, finished just off the podium in 4th. A good run by the Canadians.
It was a great run by Kaylee. It was interesting to see that she was losing time to Alana's run. If Alana watches that replay, it's going to be hard because she knows with how good Kaylee's run was, if she had just fixed some of her errors, she could have had a chance to take over the lead.
Heather Boyce doing the pushing and the brake woman. A fantastic athlete she is. Won the Winsport World Push Challenge at the Winsport facility in Calgary. Well, I guess it was about 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, she is incredible. Not necessarily the fastest or the strongest, and yet she manages to push a sled like no other.
She's quite the character as well, and a great athlete, and you're getting a look at it right here. A fantastic run by the Canadians as they come away with a real big gold medal. They had a great heat 1, and they do so again here in the second.
You watch this winning run. Nice, beautiful height, and Shady coming out clean out of 10. Great line onto 12. Taking that flop off, not a problem for Kaylee Humphreys as she drives into the spot that she's used to, gold medal finish.
So Kaylee Humphreys and Heather Boyce, they come away with the gold here in Lake Placid on the final run on a very cold day. A nice one for them. Meyers and Williams from the United States finish in second. Grubal and Eberling finish back in that 3rd spot. And the other American team of Fenlitter and Acevedo just miss the podium by, oh goodness, just a little bit. But still a great performance by all of the teams here in Lake Placid as you get a look at the final results. Not too many surprises. The Canadians followed by all 3 U.S. teams, and the Germans do a nice job as well in that 5 and 6 position. Martini and Senkel and Karasis and Fritz. Williamson and Marianne finish in 7th.
Which is utterly phenomenal. I think for that Belgian team, maybe one of their best results.
When we come back, we'll hear from the winners and recap the day.
We're coming. We'll just I figure. Yeah.
Let's face it, they need you, so don't worry about it.
She's representing Calgary. Yeah, straight cowboy style. Straight.
All right, so a good one here in Lake Placid as getting ready for the flowers ceremony. We'll have that coming up for you shortly, as well as some interviews with our podium finishers. But, Bree, really just an incredible day here. And some great sliding from some very terrific athletes.
Yeah, I mean, this is a track we've talked about all weekend. Foreigners hate this track. It is a worker's track. This is a blue-collar track. You are working all the way down. It is physical, manual labor to get the sled wrapped around all these tight transition turns.
Getting a gorgeous look at this very historic facility here in Lake Placid. It was home for the 32 and the 80 games. You can't see the old track necessarily here, but it basically goes right underneath that bridge on the left-hand side there. Of course, the new track is what you're looking at there, and a nice view of the facilities here in a very historic location. We were talking about it earlier, but Lake Placid, New York, and the Olympic Games that were here and the history and the records that were set. Absolutely something of lore and legend. All right, back in Lake Placid at Mount Van Hovenberg, and a look at the World Cup standings. Elena Meyers is still on top by a slim margin for the United States. Kaylee Humphries from Canada is sitting in that second position, and Jamie Grubel from the U.S. is sitting in third. Jasmine Fenlitter, the other American, is down in that fifth spot, and it rounds out from there. But a great race here today as we see Humphries and Boyce come away from Canada with the gold medal. Meyers and Williams finish in second, and Grubel and Eberling in third. We go down now to the finish line where we see the flower ceremony. And it is, of course, Humphries and Boyce on top of the podium with a great final run. A 5.49 start, a 1:53.66 was their time. 1200ths ahead of Meyers and Williams, 3400ths ahead of Grubel and Eberling, and Fenlitter and Acevedo just barely missing that podium, 4100ths back of the lead.
Okay, ladies, celebrate.
A big celebration here as you get a look back at the winning run. This was the push and the start and the run of Kaylee Humphries and Heather Boyce. Bree Schaaf, let's take a look and break it down.
All right, let's get picky. Here we go, turn 3, taking the usual tap, and notice all of our runners are straight. Perfect entry onto 4. Has the height to drop out of there. And there you see the great height again in Shady coming off. Little bit of a swerve left, makes it onto 11 just fine. Manages turn 12, not a big deal, doesn't take a hit. This is where she knows that she just needs a good run. A lot of times you don't want to look for the great or the miracle run. You just need a good run to win the race.
And a good run indeed it was. A 1:53.66, a 56.63 in their first run with a 5.50 push, a 57.03 in their second for a 5.49, and that is good enough for a gold medal here in Lake Placid. The Americans settle for silver and bronze, and high fives all around from the Canadian coaches in the finish, as again it is Humphries and Boyce who come away with the gold. Kaylee Humphries, the reigning Olympic champ and the reigning overall world champ, does a nice job here, and having competed since 2004, she is no stranger doing good things on a track, and here in Lake Placid, a gorgeous track indeed it is.
Kaylee came from sports school, I think started as a downhill skier before she transitioned into bobsled. Of course, that's glute intensive, is going to explain a lot of her strength and how that plays into bobsled as well.
We'll have some interviews coming up here from our winners in just a moment. We'll get you down to them very shortly. And a more exciting competition coming up from Lake Placid. One more day here. The women will take 2 runs on the skeleton. The second competition here, and we will also see the 4-man coming up tomorrow, Sunday, from Lake Placid as well. But right now, let's get you down to the finish line where our John Morgan has the winners. John?
Okay, ladies, Team Grubel, third place. Best time of the last run, do you know that?
Was it? I thought Kaylee's was faster. 400.
400's better? Well, still a great run.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to really focus on having another solid run, and when we've been consistent, we've been going fast, so we just try to repeat what we did on the first run, and we're both really happy with the result.
Great results, 4 medals in 4 races. Congratulations. Now, Alana Meyers, Lauren Williams, you know, you're 2 events. You got 2 medals now. Were you happy with both your runs?
Definitely not. You know, I made some major mistakes that cost us. You know, we got to clean those mistakes up. Lauren did a great job pushing me, and I need to follow it up with a good drive. So Kaylee definitely deserved the medal today.
Congratulations, ladies. Okay, Humphries and Boyce, track record in the first run. Long plane ride from Salt Lake to here?
It wasn't too bad for us, actually. We were pretty lucky. We went through Atlanta, and
we were complaining about our early morning start.
Yeah, early morning, but we made it all the way through.
Oh, but the results last weekend inspire you a little bit this weekend?
I don't know if inspires the right word, but it definitely fueled the fire for sure. At the end of the day, we take each week exactly for what it is. Each week is a different race, and so we came into this one completely different from last week. And I mean, all races inspire both of us, and Heather did an amazing job pushing, and great to have her back this week.
Congratulations, everybody.
So there you have it, your 1, 2, and 3. It is Humphreys with the gold. Meyers coming away with the silver, and Grewal comes away with the bronze. A great day of competition here in Lake Placid. Bree, your thoughts?
You know, this is so much fun to watch everyone manage this track that most people are so scared of. The women came out and tackled it, I'd say, in a little bit better fashion than the men. Maybe I'm a little biased.
Maybe just a little, but a terrific performance all the way around. Humphreys and Boyce win the gold. Meyers and Williams from the U.S. come away with the silver. Grewal and Everling with the bronze. We've got more tomorrow from Lake Placid, so tune in. For Bree Schaff, I'm Nick Gismondi saying so long from Placid.